The first line of the Sandokai, or the identity of relative and absolute, which if you've been to Zazenkai or Sesshin, you've chanted before, is the great mind, the great sage already messed it up. 1,000 mistakes, 10,000 mistakes. The mind of the great sage of India was intimately conveyed from west to east. The mind of the great sage of India. Mind is sort of confusing, or the word mind might be confusing in this context. If you think about mind and your personal experience, it's something that's so intimate to you that it's impossible to really share with another human being in a way that completely captures it. You can't sort of take your experience and give it to somebody for them to experience for themselves because it wouldn't be their experience anymore. The mind of the great sage of India refers to the experience and practice of Shakyamuni Buddha. So the mind of the great sage of India was intimately conveyed. But when you see the word intimate in a Zen context, sometimes that word is also interchanged with the word secret. And it's sort of the same idea that I mentioned a moment ago, that it's impossible really to share your personal experience with somebody else because it wouldn't be yours anymore. But again, in the first line of the Sandokai, the mind of the great sage of India was intimately conveyed. So somehow this experience and practice of Shakyamuni Buddha was intimately conveyed, experientially conveyed, not in an intellectual sense, but the actual practice and experience that Shakyamuni Buddha had 2,600 years ago was intimately conveyed somehow from west to east. From west to east refers to Bodhidharma, the blue-eyed, red-bearded barbarian, as he was called, who brought Zen from India to China. That first line of the Sandokai corresponds really well to the next section of the Fukanzazengi that I wanted to chat about today. So when I last talked about Fukanzazengi, I was offering a few words about the paragraph where Master Dogen talks about the 6 years Shakyamuni practiced Zazen and the 9 years that Bodhidharma faced the wall of his cave practicing Zazen. So the next paragraph, Master Dogen says, if even the ancient sages were like this, how can we today dispense with wholehearted practice? So the mind of the great sage of India was intimately conveyed from west to east. How was that done? Through the actual practice of Zazen and the passing down of that practice from teacher to student. It's not ideas, it's not rules to follow, they're not concepts, it's the actual practice that was intimately conveyed. How do you do this? So Master Dogen is again saying, even if the ancient sages were like this, learning and practicing this practice and passing it on and then practicing it themselves, how can we today dispense with wholehearted practice? And then he says, and this is um, one of my favorite couple of lines in all of Zen. Just a beautiful metaphor here. He says, Therefore, put aside the intellectual practice of investigating words and chasing phrases. So, put aside the intellectual practice of investigating words and chasing phrases. Put aside your sort of looking for the truth by trying to read or understand the sutras, read through dharma talks. Like, put that aside. Put away chasing phrases. I love that image. Stop running after phrases or words to sort of capture the truth, capture um, and then take in some sense of the mind of the great sage of India. And, he says, instead of that, learn to take the backward step that turns the light and shines it inward. So give up chasing after phrases and learn to take the backward step that turns the light and shines it inward. Backward step. So it's really easy to get caught up in your thinking. And when it comes to Zen practice, and even more generally than that, looking for some sense of truth of what this life is about, we might start to have ideas like, oh, we got it. But then the ideas become like this screen that we hold over our heads. And then we think, oh, that's not it. So we go like out looking for other words and get caught up in that. And when Dogen is saying we need to let go of that and then take the backward step. And what are we taking a backward step into? Direct experience. It's a beautiful metaphor, I think, for what it is that's at the heart of Zazen practice. And it's letting go of thought so we can come back, take the backward step into our experience, into our life. And then he goes on to say, body and mind of themselves will drop away and your original face will manifest. Body and mind of themselves will drop away. This is a really important part of Fukanzazengi. When Dogen met his teacher Rujing, Rujing would often talk about practicing body and mind falling away. And Dogen, worked diligently in his practice to try to realize that. And it said that one day he was doing zazen in the zendo, and Rujing was walking around, and one of the other monks, one of them who was sitting right next to Dogen, fell asleep. And Rujing, there's different versions of the story. The one I like best is Rujing came over and hit the monk with his sandal and said, "Wake up! How will you drop off body and mind if you're asleep?" And at that, Dogen had some realization. So he talks a lot about dropping off of body and mind. But what is that? Well, dropping off of body and mind is dropping away of duality. It's taking the backward step, letting go of thinking, not pushing it away necessarily, but letting go of it, coming into direct experience where there is no separation between self and other, body and mind. It's all just experience. And when that happens, your original face will manifest. Your original face, which is an allusion to very famous koan, was your original face before your parents were born. What is your moment to moment experience when you sort of strip away sense of self, sense of perspective, sense that you are experiencing something and there's something else to be experienced? underneath that, before all that. And then he ends this paragraph with, if you wish to attain suchness, practice suchness immediately. If you wish to attain suchness, practice suchness immediately. The word tathagata, which you may have heard, or that might be familiar to you, is one of the titles that's often given to Shakyamuni Buddha. It can be translated in many different ways. Essentially, it's the one who has gone beyond, or one that has attained suchness. What is suchness? Well, it's just our experience right here, right now. Your experience right here, right now. If you wish to attain suchness, practice suchness immediately. Take the backward step back into your experience. Body and mind will naturally drop away, and your original face will manifest. And this is how the mind of the great sage of India is intimately conveyed from west to east. The backward step. Next time we talk about Fukanzazengi, we're going to get into Dogen's specific instructions about practice, how to do it. Up until now, we've been talking about sort of his rationale for and his case that Zazen practice is Zen. So hopefully you're convinced. Well, you're here practicing, so maybe you don't need convincing. But maybe this week, think about the backward step. How do you learn to take the backward step? And if you find yourself chasing after phrases or trying to intellectualize, what might the backward step be as an alternative to that? So I guess what I'm saying is I'd like you to practice your moonwalk this week.